This article right here really does illustrate the phenomena that we've been seeing over the past few years with Meghan and her relationship to the public. People who don't know her or who even loosely know of her, perhaps even like her, who don't pay super close attention to things or haven't paid attention to the Sussex saga for the last few years, we have seen this weird pattern emerge amongst this population. If you don't pay attention and you just see a few headlines here and there, then you could easily be somebody who believes that Meghan Markle was treated poorly and all the rest of the nonsense that she's tried to spin and put out there, much of which has come out as lies or exaggerations or all the rest. We know the story. If you are new to this story, though, I have a playlist that sort of goes through it, and you could watch them in order to get caught up on all of the news and happenings that have gone on. I'll link it for you here and in the description box. But once that group of people who, didn't really know about her that much, or maybe only saw a few headlines here and there, once they learn a little bit more or see a few more headlines, they cannot ignore the inconsistencies. Because, quite frankly, Meghan contradicts herself even in just very short spans of time. She will contradict herself within one episode of her show, within one podcast, within one article or interview. She has stuff that's contradictory. So then we naturally walk away from that being like, I wonder which of these is true, or maybe neither. What's really happening here? We can't help but notice the inconsistencies. And so then people who are new to the story very quickly end up not liking her because those inconsistencies show up for them. Or they start looking back at what has she been doing? What is this woman's history? And then they find out the inconsistencies or the lies or the manipulations or whatever else. We've seen it happen over and over. Each time she has a new era or a new project or a media blitz for whatever reason, this small pool of people who didn't previously really pay attention get sucked in, and they take interest, and initially they do like her, but then very quickly that sours and it turns. This is exactly why consistency is so important, and it proves the Meg wrong in her approach and her manipulations. They're a bad idea. Because once somebody finds out that you've done things that are of questionable character or weird choices, that you've lied or are really inconsistent with things, or that you've, kind of thrown people under the bus or whatever it is. Once they find that out, then they don't just I kind of like her still. No, that's not how it works. Then people dislike you and they're like, no, I don't really like that Meghan Markle lady. Because then that small group of people, that little audience that you gained, that little few bits of people that started to like you, now dislike you because they've learned that it was all just kind of a trick or manipulation or fake. And then they feel like they can't support you. And so in her efforts to always be trying to manipulate things, to garner adoration and exclusively positive press, in her quest for these things, these outcomes, she has, by accident, I suppose, turned a huge portion of the population fully against her into active dislike, not just, it would be better if those people just didn't know about her at all. Instead, they literally dislike her because of these things. Was illustrated in this article covering comedian Katherine Ryan, who publicly laid into Meghan Markle, who she had previously defended. And this is exactly what I mean. People will at first defend her or like her a little bit or cut her some slack or whatever. And then once things go like they do with Meghan, where she comes out and says too much or lies or whatever it is that she does, then they're like, oh, I guess I actually dislike Meghan Markle. But she says, I liked Meghan Markle. I was rooting for Meghan Markle. Though she is very Hollywood, even for me, and I don't like that in people. I see now, and maybe it's just the projects she's choosing, it does feel like she has lied about whether she knew who Prince Harry was. And these details about her childhood change and don't add up. Back in 2022, she said that she loves Meghan Markle's voice and her confidence to challenge the norm and what's expected of her in that role. But now she criticizes Meghan. Katherine says she said on her new Netflix show that they ate TV dinners growing up, but then in an old interview she was like, we would eat farm fresh. Her whole act just seems very manicured and very forced. So what does this tell us? It tells us that the public at the end of the day would rather you just be honest and trustworthy than anything. They don't really care if you had a privileged upbringing, if you're nice and truthful and likable in general. You don't have to lie to try to make it seem more fantastical. She continues, I've known a lot of Hollywood people. They're not bad people. I don't think she's a bad person, but I think she likes cozying up to celebrities and she wants the $100 million deal and she likes the fact that she's married to a prince, of course. But I would rather someone lean into that and be like, oh my God, I used to be on Suits and now I'm married to a prince. I would rather that than this act of, oh, I'm just so humble. Exactly. It comes off as incredibly inauthentic and it just doesn't mesh well with reality. If Meghan would acknowledge that she's only gotten where she is because of Harry, thanks to Harry's name, Meghan has this Netflix deal and this Netflix show, and wouldn't pretend that all of this is just like on merit, then it wouldn't go down so badly. She also took issue with Meghan's flower sprinkles, which are just dead, dried, edible flowers. I have seen this. I've seen it from chefs. They like to put wildflowers on a meal, and I'm not about it. I also don't think it constitutes an entire cooking show. People are hate watching her show. Who knows what Netflix are doing? They're smart. Whether they love something or hate something, whatever keeps them watching more episodes. If this was Netflix's intention to be like, let's throw Meghan under the bus, where even people who really liked her are turning, not against her, but she just doesn't seem to be the kind of gal I would want to be friends with. It's too manicured. It's too beige. She even shared her thoughts on Meghan's name change. I think less of women who change their name anyway to match their husband's name, unless you have had a chat about it, unless you have approached that decision with equality. Let's be honest about why you're choosing Sussex. It's a way to hang on to the Duchess of Sussex. Because there's a lot of rumors that the only reason why she's doing this is because they are going to lose their titles. Speculation. And this just, as I said, illustrates exactly what happens and why it's so important to not just try to create a caricature and try to pretend to be something you're not in these types of genres. You know, this isn't like scripted television. I mean, Meghan apparently sent out scripts. We cover that in a different video. But when you do that, then anybody who was on the fence or just didn't know about you or did like you ends up at the end of the day turning against you because people just don't like that. We know we don't like people like that in real life, so we won't like it when we see it from privileged people on TV. And this comes after a huge pile-on of negative press over With Love Meghan, As Ever, and this podcast that's a horrible idea. Netflix insiders even said it's not a runaway success and they're disappointed in it and they're reconsidering what they're going to do going forward with the Meg, because they have kind of taken steps in terms of like saying, yeah, we'll put your products in our 2 stores that we're opening sometime this year. They've taken steps where they were giving Meghan, at least to some extent, the benefit of the doubt that maybe this would all work out, and it's clearly not. I'll be right back with more content soon. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!